Today we're going to be ranking all 26 Indigenous Guernseys for 2024. And look, I've been doing these rankings for the last few years now, since 2021. And I would almost have to say that as a whole, these Guernseys look probably the best as a whole group and a collective. So it's going to be a bit more difficult. I'm going to have to be slightly more harsher, I feel, because I don't want all of them to be put in insane or great. So the Adelaide Crows, first of the Guernseys. And straight at the bat, I definitely do like the design. They definitely have a great colour scheme they work with. They've got the yellow and red. Haven't implemented as much yellow or red as they have in previous years, but the designs at the bottom, that look nice. It looks like it fits in. They've got a bit of a night sky design on the top, which I think stands out, and the crow, a unique crow design. I don't think it does the Guernsey as much justice on TV because it's a bit harder to see the designs. It doesn't stand out as much as a few of the other ones on this list. So for now, we're going to put in great. We might be able to change it, but I think it is a solid start for sure. The Brisbane Lions have a couple of Guernseys this season. They've got one in red and one in maroon. I don't think there are any differences, actually, just the colour scheme. Obviously, when doing these rankings, we're only purely basing it on the design, so I couldn't really tell you what the designs are as much. Yeah, it looks like on the right side, you've got some... a couple of people playing the didgeridoo. It sort of seems that the line, in a way, has just been put there for the sake of it, a little bit out of place. It just doesn't really feel like it fits, and from afar, it looks a bit ugly, to be honest with you, because it's kind of hard to see the designs because there is so much detail in the designs. Yeah, well, I mean, the two Guernseys are the same. One's maroon, one's red. Ultimately, I think putting it in poor would be harsh, given that I think there are a few that might top that. And we're going to chuck it in decent. I think the design is pretty nice, and I like the red one slightly more. Alrighty, Carlton, let's have a look. So Carlton historically don't have the best designs for Guernseys, even Indigenous kits. They're normally quite basic and plain. I don't mind this one. I think it's very subtle, simple, but it looks quite nice. The pattern's a little bit hard to see if you're watching on TV. Now, I was at the SCG for this game, and it was a little bit difficult to actually see much of a difference in the Guernsey. You have a little nice gradient of a fade with a bit of the navy blue to the white, a couple of animals on the bottom. I'm going to chuck it in decent. I don't think it's quite as good to be put in a good tier, but I think, honestly, overall, it just looks a lot cleaner than the Brisbane Lions Guernsey, so we're going to keep them there. Now, Collingwood this might be a controversial call for mine, but I'm not a fan of this one. I think it's one of the poorer Indigenous Guernseys for Collingwood in terms of just the way I think this one looks. It does feel like there's a little bit too much going on in random positions. I don't know, it feels a bit off-putting for mine in terms of like the aesthetic and all that. You know, there isn't heaps going on either, just the black and white stripes, so I guess they've kept that design. I think that if they wanted to include magpies, which I have done in previous Indigenous designs, I think when teams actually implement and use their own team mascot for their Guernseys, it just gives a bit more significance, and I think it makes it look a lot better. I'm going to probably put this in poor. I actually think the Brisbane one's better, more going on in the Brisbane one. This one is just about as messy and ugly, so bit of a controversial call, but I'm not a fan of this Collingwood one, and this is going to be the first Guernsey to be put in poor. Alrighty, now Essendon normally don't make too many mistakes when they make their Indigenous Guernseys, and this one is no exception. You've got the red sash on a red Guernsey design with the patterns. The back of it stands out. I've actually probably have to say, of all the Guernseys that I've seen on TV over the first week of the footy for the Indigenous round, this one stands out and looks the best to me, to be honest with you. Like, you compare it with North's one, as good as North one is, and we'll get to that a little bit later on, the Essendon one looked a bit better, I reckon. Quite a bit better, in my opinion, just from afar. What looks like a dolphin on the bottom right, you got a few patterns that are quite symmetrical as well, and then you've got, I'm not too sure exactly what they are on the sash, but I think it looks quite nice. It works quite well. Doesn't seem out of place. Doesn't seem messy. You've obviously got to put together a pretty significant, good-looking design whenever you do the Dreamtime of the G Games. And again, Essendon have not missed the mark. I actually think, overall, it's just a bit better than Adelaide. So we're going to put the first Guernsey for Essendon in insane. They've had an insane season, and now they have an insane Indigenous Guernsey. For Fremantle, they have two designs. One's obviously home, one's obviously away. It's cool that they brought back the anchor, honestly. I actually like the idea that they brought back the anchor. So they're sort of bringing back to their traditional roots with their colours. They brought back the red. They brought back the anchor. I'm not the biggest fan of the designs, to be honest. It looks a little bit messy. Looks like there's a little bit too much going on, particularly with the white one. So I'm actually not the biggest fan of the white one. I actually don't mind the Fremantle home one because you've got like the red. It sort of blends a bit better, and you can actually see the anchor a little bit. You can sort of see the design slightly better, in my opinion. So we're going to chuck the, I reckon, good. I might slide that down to decent. We'll see how the other ones compare. And I am going to put this Fremantle one in the decent tier. Now, Geelong, it's another controversial design. I'm not too sure exactly the idea behind why they thought this would look that great. I reckon the cut-offs between the cuffs and the designs look really ugly. It doesn't even matter if this was a Guernsey or for whatever it was. I just think Geelong would have made this Guernsey look a whole lot better if they just got rid of those cut-offs and then just had the designs of the stripes and those different patterns and designs and colours as the stripes in itself. I'm not that big of a fan of the cuts having the navy blue Guernseys as well. I think it would have looked a little bit nicer in white. It looks very ugly if you look at it from afar. I know quite a few Cats fans that don't like the design and think this is one of the worst ones I've ever put out. So for Gold Coast, they have a couple of designs. One of them is just strictly for their games they play in Darwin. We'll start off with that one. As you can see on the top right, it says Northern Territory and there's a blue serpent. I actually think that blue serpent looks really cool. I like the blue that stands out. It actually is sort of a Gold Coast club colour as well. But I think this is alright. I actually don't mind it. We'll put it in good. I think ahead of the Freo one. I just think it's simple enough, but still simple enough to be good. And the other Gold Coast one, I don't think I like it as much. I know there's a little bit more going on, but personally, I feel like this one seems a little bit rushed with the designs. But to me, this one feels a little bit rushed with the designs. As you can see, you got those yellow swirls, and that's sort of it really. There's really not too much to it. If they actually implemented a bit of a gradient, which I think looks really cool on Gold Coast Guernseys, or maybe a couple more suns or whatever they could have added, I think that would have looked a bit better. I think the Carlton one's honestly better than the Gold Coast one. Now, GWS, they definitely have done pretty well. They normally do quite well with their Guernseys. This one's really cool. A lot going on. Unlike some of the other Guernseys with a bit too much going on, this one doesn't feel out of place, and it feels like it all works quite well. You've got a lot to actually look at here. I know I'm not the best at describing it, so correct me if I am wrong. It does look like another lizard possibly on the G. You've got the meeting places on the bottom. You got the nice swirl designs and the patterns, and I think those are footprints as well. So I'd love to know the truer meaning behind, you know, all of these Guernseys, not just the GWS one. But when we're just looking at it on how it looks, I think it's probably in the grey tier, to be honest with you. I like the coloured charcoal. It works really well with the Giants, and I think this is definitely one of the better ones. So do I think it's better than the Adelaide one? I think the Adelaide one's a little bit better. A bit more aesthetically pleasing. The Crows ones have better colours, and I like a Crow a little bit more than a G. Now for Hawthorn, they have a couple of designs, pretty much the same design, just one's in gold and one's in brown. I like the gold one better because you actually can see the hawk a lot easier, and I'm assuming that's a hawk, right? Because it's a Hawthorn design, and it looks like it's a hawk flying over a map of some sort. Don't really know what it would be, but I think those little dots would symbolize the people, so the whole community or the country or whatever it is. I have seen better from Hawthorn. I think this can go into good for now. Maybe it can go up to great. I do like this one. The brown design is a bit different. It's a lot harder to actually see the hawk because you've got the brown map, and to be honest with you, when you've got the brown hawk and the brown map, it looks a bit of a mess, to be honest with you, actually, from afar, and probably up close as well. So I'm going to put the other Hawthorn one in decent. It sort of reminds me of the Brisbane one, a little bit too much going on. Alrighty, Melbourne have a couple of Guernseys, and they are nice. Not going to lie, Melbourne seem to do very well when they do their Indigenous Guernseys. They've got another pretty simple design. I think for Melbourne, a lot of their designs are simple, but their colours just stand out really well. And there's just nothing wrong with it. I think compared to Collingwood's, which I did say was a little bit simple, but I just thought it was quite out of place. The colours probably didn't help. But then you've got all these other little designs, you know, surrounding that heart, which I think look really nice and go well together. And the other design is just the same one, but in a wave form. Personally, I just think the colours look a little bit better for that one. I've always liked that design for the Ds, the lighter blue. So I think both are going to go in great. Pretty simple. They're basically the same Guernsey, just one's lighter in colours. I'll have the lighter blue one just ahead of the navy blue one. They're both one of the better ones for sure. North Melbourne, another team that always do quite well. See, this is why Collingwood could do a little bit better. You know, North Melbourne are actually utilising kangaroos. You've got the kangaroo footprints. You've got the 4 kangaroos going in opposite ways. I really do like the separation of the stripes. You've got the light blue stripes, more like the Argentina stripes, and then you've got the regular North Melbourne blue stripes with white separating. A bit of a white glow as well, and I like the designs on the blue stripes as well. I think everything about this Guernsey fits all the criteria that you'd want in one of these Indigenous designs. The only thing I'd probably say that lacks it is, as I said before, yeah, when watching it on TV at the library, SNV North, the SN Guernsey, just maybe it was the colours, like the design stood out a lot more than what North Melbourne's did, so I don't know why that would have been the case. I'm going to have North in insane, because I think this is an insane Guernsey, but I'm just going to have the Bombers one just a little bit ahead. So we head to Port Adelaide, and this one is very simple. In fact, I don't even think there's a design behind the Guernsey at all. Maybe something really, really faint that I can barely see. You've got the Port Adelaide V, which is, I don't know what it's supposed to be. You've got the lines and the dots. You've got a bit of a meeting place in the middle, and you've got a swirl at the bottom. Very simple. almost too simple, I feel like. Sometimes less is more, but sometimes with this, I think you could have done a little bit more for Port Adelaide. I reckon we're going to have it ahead of Gold Coast design. Another dream time at the G Guernsey for Richmond. Weirdly enough, they didn't run out in this design on the weekend against Brisbane. They could have easily worn this design. I'm not too sure why they didn't. Was it because it wasn't a home game? I don't know. Was it because they didn't want to get embarrassed in that design? Maybe, but they'll probably get embarrassed against Essendon this weekend anyways. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I don't like this one as much as Essendon's one, to be honest. I don't think it looks as nice considering Essendon's one was red, and I like the designs a bit more, but I like this quite a bit. You've got, I don't know, is that a turtle? It is actually. That's pretty cool. You got like a lizard on the bottom of the sash, and then the sash, for the first time I think that I can remember, you got the sash separated in different designs and colors. So you got a bit of brown, you got a bit of yellow, green, I think it is. So there is a lot of empty space, which maybe they could have put something else onto it, I don't know, but I guess they didn't want it to seem out of place. I think it's better than Hawthorns and Gold Coast and Freos, but I just don't think it's yet a great kit. Moving on to the side that I support in the Saints, we have a couple of designs here. One is the home, one's the away. I definitely like the home one a little bit more. It is quite simple though, honestly. Like, there's honestly just the design of the Guernsey, and then you got like faint patterns on the outside of the stripes. I wouldn't be overly desperate to buy these Guernseys because they're quite simple and all that. We'll start with the away one. I'm going to chuck it in decent. Let's chuck it ahead of the Hawthorn one here just because I think it's nicer. It's not poor because I don't think it looks bad. I just feel like it looks too plain. There's not enough going on personally. From the outside, it really just looks like the simple away kit from the St Kilda. I don't even like our away kit that much this year. Now, St Kilda's home. It's obviously a big bit of a difference because instead of the white stripe, they've got the yellow stripe, which for the Indigenous design colours. So, which obviously, as you can see, the red, black, and yellow are the colours for the Indigenous flag. So I think just because of the creativity and the way that they've done that, that deserves heaps of bonus points. Yes, they've been doing it for a couple of years, but still, they have switched the design up. And I think this actually looks a bit better than their previous designs when they've used the yellow for their white stripe. It is still pretty simple with their designs and all that, but again, maybe they could have ruined it if they went a little bit too over the top. Yet I still think due to the fact that they've got the yellow stripe and all that, I'm going to put it at the end of grade. Next up, we got the Sydney Swans design. I remember for a while, the Swans had the exact same Indigenous design every single year, and although it was a good one, the longer they go on with the same design, the more it gets just bland and boring and all that. So this one's obviously not the same design as the year before. This is really cool. It's an inverse of their normal home kit, so they've got predominantly white. So it's definitely a bit different seeing them run out in this in a home game, considering it was mainly white. But I think it almost looks better, the fact that it's mainly white. It looks really different. You got the 4 circles, you got the swan in the middle with a harbour bridge, and then you got a few Indigenous people, I believe, holding spears as well. So overall, Sydney, I think they will go into the great for mine. Let's have them just ahead of the Giants. Red and white definitely stands out a lot more than some of the other ones we've seen. Alrighty, West Coast. Definitely very different to what we've seen from West Coast before. Probably the most unique design we've seen so far this year. Some people don't like it though. I remember UCAT's video, he had this in the paw. I can understand why you wouldn't think it's the best because it is different. I know the eagle does actually look quite realistic, but I think it's really nice. I like the yellow gradient. You got the bluish at the bottom. You got the cool little designs, the dot paintings on the bottom as well. It almost feels like there is too much going on, but I just don't think there's quite enough for me to get to that stage. I can actually see that's Western Australia, the Eagles on top of. I think this is honestly going into the insane category. I think, especially seeing the team run out in a design like this, I saw them run out, you know, seeing the highlights, Harley Reid kicking that goal in this Guernsey makes the Guernsey look even better, I honestly feel like. So I think they've done quite well. West Coast have really great colours to work with, also yellow and blue. I don't really know why UCAT had this in poor. Collingwood's is definitely a lot worse than this West Coast kit. I mean, West Coast at least have put in a lot of effort, and I think it's paid off. And we finished with the Western Bulldogs. They've got a home and an away design. It's a bit like Port Adelaide, a bit plain. I think it's better than Port's just because there's a little bit more going on. And I like the colours, at least for the blue one. I like blue a little bit more. I will have the blue one at the top of decent. And then for the away design, it's basically the same as the home. I think the home one's a little bit better, so we'll chuck the white one just below the blue. And on that note, that'll wrap things up for my 2024 Indigenous Guernsey rankings. Essendon, North Melbourne and West Coast are my 3 favourite, and Collingwood and Geelong are my 2 least favourite. I want to hear what you guys have to say down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I'm a dickhead? Do you think I got it right? Let me know down below, and we'll see you very soon for some more content on the channel.